Hi everyone, welcome to Reading with Eve, and let's get on with another video. Today I'm doing my second part of however many parts I'm going to do of Eve Talks Television. And last time I did Beverly Hills 90210 because it was one of the first, if not the first proper TV shows that I've ever seen. And today I'm doing none other than its successor, its reboot, its sequel, however you want to call it, 90210. So let's begin. How I usually do these videos, I just talk about my general stance on where this show is in the pop culture, and then I talk about how I discovered it, how many times I've seen it, do I rewatch it often, all of that, and then I talk about my ranking of the seasons and what I think of that, just in general, the quality of the show as it went on, and then I talk about characters, pairings, and any friendships that stood out to me, and then I talk about any hot takes I might have had. Maybe not so much in this one because I am not well versed enough with the 90210 fandom to know unpopular opinions. So I will just say my opinions, but I have no idea if they're popular or not. I just don't know. We'll find out. We'll see what's what, you know? So yeah. Now, really, let's start this. So 90210 is, I watched it immediately after the original one. And it started airing in 2008. So by the time that I was watching it, I believe 3 seasons were out. I think so. I'm pretty sure that was the case. So more than half of the show was already, and by that time I had the chance to catch up, and I think by the time that I finished all of it, season 4 was already halfway in or something like that. So this show was obviously created as a reboot of the cult classic Beverly Hills 90210, for a new generation. And it shows because it does start out as a structural kind of, a homage, kind of a copy, because, it is a bit, it is a reboot, so of course, they will start with the same formula, and then it diverts into something a bit crazy, a bit soap opera as well, but you can tell that they were aiming for the new generation because it is a lot juicier and a lot messier in a way that is more digestible for modern audiences, and it doesn't really have that after school special feeling anymore that the original one did. I talked about it, the first couple seasons kind of felt like a bit of a lecture-y vibe, so yeah, when I watched it, I was 14, 15-ish, I think, something like that. And I actually only watched it in full, the whole series once, but I've rewatched certain seasons and certain storylines since then. So, I've seen parts of it more than once, but I've not done a thorough rewatch in more than a decade. And I don't really know why, because it definitely stands its ground, just the same as with Gossip Girl or One Tree Hill, the OC, whatever. It is a solid teen drama. I don't really know why I've not rewatched it more. I probably should. But I'm hoping that talking about all these characters and their relationships and all of that jazz, I will come up with I will realize why I've not rewatched it in full all this time. So yeah, as far as that goes, I think that's where it stands in the popular culture. It is definitely, it manages to do what a lot of reboots or sequel series, what they can't really do, and they separate themselves from their predecessor enough to be recognized on their own merit, but there is still a certain amount of soul and tonal similarities in it that it doesn't completely abandon it, because a lot of reboots, especially ones that are made in the last decade, they purely go based off nostalgia, based off cameos and everything, and this one also has cameos from the OG series. I'll talk about that, but overall it separates itself, and it's look, this is a homage, but ultimately we want to do our own thing. So I think that it definitely does that really well. But at the same time, like I said, it stands its own ground perfectly in terms of like shows like Gossip Girl and like all them other ones, but I think it even aired on the same network. Yeah, it aired on the same network, CW. But ultimately, it's not that much talked about, especially in comparison to, like, again, Gossip Girl. I keep comparing it, but, you know, it's basically rich, privileged teenagers making amok. And it started airing, like, a year after the OC ended, so, like, it did that whole West Coast thing while Gossip Girl was doing the East Coast thing, so you get the point. But ultimately, I just don't think that it had the longevity to be talked about, and it's been like 12 years after its finish, which is again sad, but at the same time I do think that with as much TV and the abundance of network TV that we so luckily experienced in like the 90s and the 2000s, there are only like a handful of shows that are widely mainstream talked about even today. And then the rest of them, if you go online, they still have a following, they still have a fandom, but they're not referenced, like, massively. But then again, that is, you know, people's attention spans are different, TV landscape is changing, a lot of people are not very interested in going to the backlist station and looking up shows that aired nearly 20 years ago, you know, that sort of thing. So, it is what it is, unfortunately, but if you have seen the show and if you've seen like some sort of basic pop culture references to it or about it, whatever, do tell me and I will stand corrected. So now in terms of that, I think I specified where I stand with it and where I think it stands in the main landscape of TV today. And now the seasons. So it's kind of, well, actually, no, I do have a ranking. So, I will tell you my ranking as I'm talking about it chronologically, if that makes sense. And then I'll say at the end again what my ranking is, because I just kind of like to talk about the show in a chronological order. So, season 1, I think it's either second or third place for me, kind of depends on the storyline, because this is the season that follows the formula of the OG the closest, at least in the beginning. You have the siblings who come in, you know, fish out of water into this landscape of rich California, Beverly Hills teenagers. And then you have like all these relationships, all the drama as it starts separating itself from that identity. And I do think that why I'm not ranking it, like why it's kind of somewhere in the middle, is because a lot of things are started in this season that are sort of dropped, as I believe the original writers departed the show, but again, don't quote me on that. Like I said, I'm not doing like super thorough research beforehand. I do have a couple of tabs open just to refresh myself before I talk, so I'm not completely wrong, but I am pretty sure that it was like post-writer strike and all that. I'm pretty sure that season 2 onwards, the main writers changed. And you can really tell that in the show's tone and also in some abandoned storylines and even some cast members that were booted off after season 1. I don't know if they chose to leave. I don't know if they were written off. But you can tell that their storylines weren't exactly done, but they were basically told, okay, bye-bye, sort of thing. So yeah, that would go like somewhere in the middle. And then season 2 is where the show really, like, you still have appearances from some of the OGs, but it's where it really starts taking off and making it into its own thing. Some new characters appear that are gonna stick around this time. So it kind of feels like the show sort of had a mini reboot inside of itself, starting off like season 2. And I personally, I really struggled to get through the first half of it, and I will talk about why when I talk about the characters. But overall, like, once that storyline gets solved, like, I really, really love the second half of the season. So that's why I sort of like between 2 or 3, because like it really depends. Yeah, even I can't deny though that that's when it finds its footing, and that's when it starts climbing towards its peak. And then season 3 is my personal favorite because, like, my favorite couples are developing or finally getting together, sort of thing. And then, like, a lot of the stuff feels like it's as it should be, and it's at its, like, most entertaining for the main characters, you know. There's some really juicy stuff there. So yeah, I do think that season 3 is the peak. And then, that's also the season where the characters graduate high school. So then season 4 is them starting in university, and it starts dipping pretty steadily. And I'm pretty sure that because of the dip in season 4, it got cancelled, and they knew that season 5 would be the last, or it was cancelled during the mid-season break. I don't know, but I do think that they were aware that it would be the last season. So yeah, it's just really, again, I think it did the same thing. Unfortunately, it fell into the trap of its predecessor, where season 4 and season 5 kind of felt like they were just really going into the melodrama. And the thing was, a lot of the characters, like the main characters, didn't even have that many storylines together, which I feel was a mistake. But I will talk about their storylines more as I talk about the characters. So yeah, I do think, where would my ranking be for season 4 and 5? I do think I actually ranked season 5 above season 4. I don't remember why exactly, because I've only seen both of those seasons once. But I know that I really didn't enjoy a lot of the stuff in season 4, because I just found it like too much of a jarring shift between the high school years and the college years, like university years, whatever. So yeah, I do think it goes from favorite to least favorite, 3, then 2 and 1, sort of interchangeable, 5 and 4. So yeah, that is my ranking. I don't know if I rewatched it now, would it change, would it not? Who knows? Maybe I'll find out, but I just have so much stuff on my to-watch list still at the time of filming that I don't know when I'm gonna get to it, if I do. So anyway, now onto the characters, because we have quite a few. As always, like, I'm not gonna talk about every single character that's appeared, but I do feel like it bears speaking about all of the main cast, because I do have something to say about most of them. So we will start with Annie. Right, so Annie Wilson, played by Shania Grimes, who got the role based off her performance in Degrassi: The Next Generation, a show that I'm going to be talking about as well. She killed that role, by the way. So she received that role because of it and left Degrassi: The Next Generation when it was in its 8th season because of it. And she is obviously the Brenda Walsh, like, from the get-go. She is shown to go to the Beverly Hills with her brother Dixon, who I'll talk about shortly, and they go to the school because their father got a principal job there, so they're taken away from Kansas. The first episode, I believe, in the series, it's literally called We're Not in Kansas Anymore, which is a fun nod. So yeah, they are, again, forced into this new environment with these rich, entitled people, teenagers, whatever, who they don't really know how to deal with. And a huge part of the first season for Annie is to balance her, you know, soft demeanor and not let the cutthroat attitude of these people around her turn her into someone that she doesn't want to be. And a lot of people dislike Annie's character. I don't really know why, but I think it's kind of, again, it's almost as if there's like a curse of the type of role, because obviously they started separating, like, segregating Brenda's character because of Shannon Doherty behind the scenes stuff, and I've never heard any behind the scenes stuff between the cast of this show. I'm sure there was probably some drama there. I do believe, to be fair, I heard that the network tried to pit the females cast against each other again for drama, whatever. But as far as I know, Shanna is very, like very sweet and kind and all that. Well, from what I've heard, I might be wrong. We don't know these people. But ultimately, a lot of the fandom from back in the day, from what I remember, like on fan boards and stuff, back when the show was still airing, they all hated Annie's character. And again, I guess I could see why, but also not really, because so the thing with Annie is she starts the show, she's presented as like this sweet, innocent, you know, person who was just shoved in with these people who are horrible and all that. And a lot of the arguments about this is from her haters is that she is a hypocrite who is very judgmental, like chip on her shoulder, and who will judge people from acting a certain way, but then she will do the same thing or worse. And I do think that there is some merit to that, because Annie is quite judgmental in the beginning, at least, in the show, and she definitely has that bit of like, she even gets that pointed out to her, that she wants to pretend that she's better than others, or like she wants to convince herself of that, but she's not really. And I do think that a huge part of her character journey is for her to realize that she is not on some moral high ground above the others just because she hasn't grown up in this sort of like rich, privileged lifestyle. And think about her storyline overall. Well, in the first season already, we see that she's not the saint that everyone makes her out to be, but if anything, like I said, that makes her interesting. And yeah, she could be a bit hypocritical, but I do think that she grows out of that really quickly. And at the same time, I can't help but feeling bad for her, because considering she's the Brenda of the group, the segregation that she experiences in the show for a time being is way worse than anything Brenda ever experienced, which shows that this series is taking it up a notch. And like the whole thing, so like in the first season, sorry if I seem like I'm jumping around, but obviously I'm not reciting episode by episode synopsis. Like I said, it's just not what I want to do. So I'm just, recalling things and tying them all together, like my thoughts about them. So basically, she starts as what I said, trying to, keep her moral high ground in the midst of everything. But it's shown immediately that she is not as innocent as she would like herself to believe, because she hangs out and like hooks up with her new friend's ex, who she knew beforehand, but she tries to hide it, and then she gets all like defensive and pissed off when that comes out, and when it's used against her and all that. So yeah, she's definitely not perfect, and like I said, in the first season as well, she gets called out by other characters that there's more to her, and she's not this perfect little proper prep princess that she wants to be. And then we get this huge explosive thing that changes her character trajectory forever at the end of season 1, when she gets blamed for once again hooking up with a guy that her friend Naomi was into. Like, I'm trying not to talk too much with the names before I talk about those characters, but yeah, just like, it's one of the biggest storylines in the show. She gets framed for sleeping with this guy that Naomi likes. They were even boyfriend and a girlfriend exclusive by that point. I'm not sure exactly, but I do think they were exclusive, actually, to be fair. Well, anyway, like, they were definitely, they liked each other and all that. So yeah, she was framed for that, and then it seems that everyone had so much resentment built up towards her that it's just exploded into this big thing, and Annie called the police on her party, and then she ran away and got drunk and ran someone over. So basically she committed a hit and run, which some fans said that's like the worst thing that any character in the show has ever done. And the fact that she tried to hide it says a lot about her. But it's like, at the same time, you know what? Should she have gone to the police right away? Sure, absolutely. but at the same time, she was drunk and she was scared, and she was a teenager who literally just got exiled by everyone that she called a friend in her vicinity, and frankly, she was probably terrified and she didn't know what to do and she wasn't thinking clearly. And I don't think that we can really judge someone for doing something that we perceive as wrong until we're in that situation ourselves. And then season 2, like I said, it really puts that ostracization to another level, because Annie actually spends like the whole half of season 2 completely stripped away, cut away from the rest of the group, as they refused to even speak to her. And that actually lasted a lot longer than I thought it would. And that's why it was kind of hard for me to watch the first half of the second season, sorry. I mean, Annie's not even like my favorite character, but it was still really hard to watch someone be that segregated from the group, and then to watch her fall into the trap of this relationship that is clearly not good for her and is manipulative, purely because she had no one else at that time in her life. And her parents and her brother did a very shitty job trying to get to the bottom of what exactly was wrong with her. And then she was blackmailed by that sad guy, who just so happened to be the nephew of the man that she committed the hit and run for. And it's, you know, it's very obvious that throughout that whole season, she is carrying an enormous amount of guilt that's eating away at her. And like, it is definitely a dark journey for her character, for her to like learn to take that accountability, to absolve herself of her guilt, to, you know, do the right thing, and also to, you know, forgive the people who treated her like crap. You know, at the same time, it's like, I wouldn't have blamed her if she never became friends with the others again, because I do think that they all turned away from her. Yeah, I mean, the situation with that whole, like, framing her and like her part of her like clothing being there and all that, like the whole, when Naomi thought that she slept with the guy she liked / was dating, you know, it's very like, yeah, it didn't look good, but also everyone believed her, or rather like didn't believe her, I should say, very comfortably, and they were completely fine with not doing anything about it. Does that make sense? So like, personally, I never would have forgiven people if I was in Annie's position. I knew that she had to get like them to interact with her again, because they had to, like, for the TV purposes, you know, they couldn't just keep her away from the whole cast forever. Although I'll go back to that. But yeah, I personally don't think that their friendship, like her with Naomi and with the others, I don't think that it ever fully recovered. But I will talk about friendships later. Although I think I am gonna more, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just more talk about friendships in general in this show, because I don't have super strong feelings about any of them, really, to make like separate little talking points. So anyway, then in season 3, Annie seems to be in a better place, and it becomes a lot, like a lot of her arc is her relationships, mainly with Liam and with this guy Charlie, although, let's be real, no one really cared about him that much. And then again, she gets into a storyline where she is pitted against someone else who is clearly causing havoc for her own cousin. And again, no one believes her. And it's that theme of, it always seems that if there's some shit going down, everyone around Annie is gonna pick someone else's side, and she's never gonna be believed without going through extensive amounts of effort to prove it. And again, it's that subtle segregation, like, from the rest of the group. And I do think that someone actually, even a Vicky of the show, at some point said that she didn't really belong in the main group, or especially like with the main girls anymore. It was like Naomi, Adriana, Silver, and then Annie's just sort of like fluffing about somewhere. And then in season 4, they completely, I don't know exactly what the hell happened there, but they basically turned her into a paid escort. Very dramatic, very just, what? And like a lot of her storylines, once again, were her on her own dealing with her own stuff that others weren't necessarily in the loop, or like at least not right away. And I don't remember her actually having that many storylines that involved other main characters. So I do think that, I don't know if it was the writer's intent or if it was just drama or if they just couldn't think of anything, I don't know, but I do think that they definitely gave Annie's character the short end of the stick. And since her segregation up after season 1, while she made amends and was still friends with all of them, it never felt like she was fully part of the group. And I just think that's a bit sad in a way, considering that they had a chance to rectify what happened with Brenda's character, and they chose not to. So that's a bit sad. Dixon, I honestly don't have that much to say about, just like I don't have that much to say about Brandon, because I just think that his character is sort of, again, plot-based. He does whatever needs to be done for the plot. And a lot of his, like, he has his music career, he has, like, his ADHD and all that, and he has, like, his relationships, he gets together with 2 of the main cast, so, like, not including his sister, like, the 4 main girls, but not including his sister, that's 2 out of the 3, and he also gets together with Ivy, who was, a main cast for a bit as well. So, yeah, a lot of his storylines are his relationships, which, you know, whatever, it's a teen drama, of course. There's even a hookup map for these people, like, most of them have hooked up with each other at some point. It would be a shorter list to list people who have never hooked up. And actually, I'm gonna do that when I talk about them. But yeah, I never had strong feelings about this guy. Like, the most interesting storyline I found for him was actually his, like, dealing with being adopted and wanting to find, like, his birth parents and all that. And I felt like they didn't give nearly enough attention to that storyline and just focused on him hooking up with someone. So yeah, no super strong feelings on that regard. You know, our girl Naomi, who is based off Kelly Taylor, who also appears in the show for a couple of seasons as like a special guest star, but that's for later. But basically Naomi, she starts the show as kind of like a bit of a one-dimensional bitchy character, kind of there to be like a bit of a rival for Annie and Silver and all that, and then she becomes easily the show's most compelling character, you know, a bitch with a heart of gold sort of situation, and she goes through a lot, if I may say. Like her character goes through some hoops, so just, you know, a little bit of background on that. So, as I said, Naomi is definitely a bitch with a heart of gold in a sense that she is not afraid to be cutthroat. She's sassy. She cares for you, but if you get on her bad side, she's gonna turn away like that. It's very, you know, cutthroat sort of thing. But when you look at her life, it's very clear to see how she got that way. And the actress Sanalyn McCord portrays her really well and gives her that depth and nuance. Like, as much as I love Shanae's acting, I can see why Ellen was the star of this show and why she was referred to as such, although maybe that caused a bit of a discomfort between them two, because I know that if I was like told that I would be the lead of a show and then as the first season was airing I found out actually they like her better than you, I would be a bit peeved. But, you know, I'm not gonna presume or engage in any tabloid drama. We're here to talk about the characters. So yeah, Naomi starts the show with actually extending a friendly hand to Annie, and then they have like this bit of a weird thing going around. As I said, like Annie sneaks around with Naomi's ex and all that for a bit. It's very wishy-washy. She finds out her dad's having an affair, and she has a lot to process, but again, you do see those depths in her character, and she acts really well in terms of showcasing that depth that we need to sympathize with her. And obviously with the bad boy Liam who comes in, they have like this bit of a back and forth till they get together. He's the same guy who's seduced by Naomi's own sister, and she thinks it was Annie. That's the whole, like, what the whole ostracization is about, which shows you how messed up Naomi's family is if her own sister can do that to her. And then a lot of the second season is Naomi like healing from that, finding out the truth, making amends with Annie, or giving Liam a second chance, but then realizing that it doesn't really work. But arguably her biggest storyline is Mr. Cannon, the teacher who she falsely accuses of sexual assault. And she ends up in that bit of a situation where she kind of, well, I don't know how to phrase it, but it's the case of crying wolf, I guess, because he ends up actually assaulting her. And that's like the cliffhanger for season 2 and season 3. A lot of season 3 is her dealing with that trauma and opening up to her friends and letting herself be helped by her friends. So it's a very complex situation, because Naomi, like, she's meant to mirror Kelly, who's been through assault herself, and multiple times, I might add. I talked about it in my Beverly Hills video. But the thing is, with Naomi, again, it perpetuates that and brings out the discussion of, well, for one, just because she made up a false claim against a man doesn't mean that she deserved to actually be assaulted by said man. And also the fact that just because she's not a particularly nice person a lot of the time doesn't mean she deserved what happened to her. And I think that it made sense for it to be her to showcase that fact. And I think that that storyline was actually handled quite delicately, considering, networks, sometimes they don't give subjects like that the grace that it deserves. So I do think that it was done and acted fairly well, and justice was served as much as it could have been. But it also talked a lot about intricacies of such matters that are uncomfortable to talk about, and I do appreciate them bringing that into effect. And then a lot of the second half of the season features Naomi getting together with Max. Like, I love them together. I'll talk about that a bit later. Yeah, they get together, and it's a lot about her learning to let go of useless image, popularity stuff, and just being with someone that she wants to be with. And I found that really sweet and really nice development for her character, and a bit of solace after all the trauma she's experienced. Then seasons 4 and 5, they center a lot, especially season 4. I'm not gonna lie, there's like this massive paragraph on what she did that season, but I'm not gonna like read it out and like recite it back to you. But it's essentially like a lot of it is centered in her university journey, like college, all of that sorority stuff, and like her trying to rule that sort of social scene, and also her internship. Like, she's really into fashion and stuff like that. She even recruits Liam to be like her model boy, whatever. So, and then she actually gets married to Max for a bit, but it doesn't work out, which is a real shame. That's in season 5. And yeah, like, her storyline, it's I do think that like the last season or 2, like, they really fumbled with most of the character storylines. So I do think as far as like hers go, she's not been that much screwed over, apart from the writers breaking up her and Max. So thankfully, that's that. But yeah, I do think that she ends the series. Does she end the series single? I do think she's kind of seeing someone a bit, but it's nothing serious. She's more just like, it's a bit of a transactional thing, like to further her career and stuff, which, you you do you, girly. So, you know, that's that. Yeah, I do think that Naomi is probably my favorite character in the series, just because, I mean, she was made to be that. She has a lot to offer, and her portrayal is amazing, and it really gave like an interesting flavor to the show. Then Silver, or Erin Taylor, Kelly's half sister, she made her first appearance in the original series as a baby. She's played by Jessica Stroop, and I really liked her. And then the writers did whatever they thought they were doing with her. I don't know, but honestly, I just like they serened her a lot, because she is the character that's hooked up with the most members out of the main cast. And it became to the point where it wasn't so much about her storyline, it was about her, just like her relationships. That was all her character became. So like when we started the series, she has that bit of not like other girls sort of thing, and definitely like a bit judgmental as well. Like her interactions with Annie, she gets a bit defensive, and then we see like more the reason why she is that way. And she inherited the bipolar disorder from her half brother David from the original show as well. So it's also a very like well portrayed. I do think that she did a really good job with that when it was revealed that she had it, and like get medicated and all that. And then she gets into this relationship where she's kind of like a beard for someone unknowingly for a bit. And then what else does she actually do? That's the thing. When I think of Silver, I mainly think of her relationships, because that's what the creators have done. So just let me quickly refresh my memory if there's anything else to talk about when it comes to her. Right, so she is definitely like the main friend group member to help Naomi after her sexual assault, which is great. But apart from that, like there's some uni storylines for her as well, like a little bit. But yeah, most of her storylines are just relationships, which I find sad, and it's just underutilizing her character, because they could have done so much more with her. Like the fact that most of the 2 final seasons revolved around her having cancer risk, and then deciding that she wants a baby, but like if she wants the baby, she has to like have it now, because she potentially needs her breasts removed and like ovaries or whatever else. And she decides to have one of her exes be a donor, but then it doesn't work out. Like I genuinely think that the writers, as the show went on at least, the writers kind of wanted to make her character suffer needlessly. And I mean, I don't think I'm that far off, considering that they literally gave her cancer in the show finale. The boards, I saw who had the worst ending of the characters, and Silver is like the top one. I mean, easily. Yeah, it's like giving your main character cancer in the show finale. Like, it's a major middle finger. And I do think that she deserved better writing and better, you know, because Jessica still gave it her all, but, you know, it's hard to give it your all when your script is meh. So yeah, she was basically the relationship, whatever, you know, she participated in cheating, she was cheated on, and it was just, it was a mess overall. So yeah, I don't know what I think of her character, like where she lands, but she's definitely, like, it's hard to root for her when this is what we have to work with. And then on to who else do I have? Well, we still have Adriana, the last like main girly out of the 4. She actually had a recurring role in season 1, and I don't think that she was going to be kept on, but I think that the viewers liked her, so the creators rewrote the whole thing to accommodate that. because she started as an actress who was pregnant and using drugs. So, you know, we're very at the bottom. And then she gave birth to her baby in season 1, and then she became like more central part of the group, because she was a like more segregated in season 1. That's why I said like it feels a bit different than the rest of the show. And then she centers more on music, and she does some really morally dubious things to get to fame, such as taking a dead guy's notebook to like and pretend that it was hers to release an album. And when that gets found out, she tries to make this reality show to stay relevant. But like when she actually gets famous, she's horrible, but it's not being like excused, it's portrayed as rightly horrible. But at the same time, she gets cheated on because of her attitude, and it's sort of like, I don't think she deserved being cheated on, because like her boyfriend at the time, Naveed, he cheats on her with Silver. Like I said, Silver is a cheater. And the thing is with Adriana, it can be kind of hard to root for her character sometimes because of the levels of cunning and horrible behavior that she goes to get back at someone who she perceives has wronged her. Because I would say that, I mean, obviously I don't condone cheating in any way, but Adriana crossed the line when she messed with Silver's bipolar medication and almost got her killed because of it. And when she was cut off from the group because of it at the end of season 3, like instead of you know, letting things settle like Annie did in season 2, she constantly is in Silver's and everyone else's face, apologizing and trying to like weasel her way back. And it's just it's a bit hard to watch. And then she also gets with multiple guys in the group, and she cheats on them. She's with Dixon at some point, and she cheats on on him. So yeah, it's a bit, you know, it's like, so I'm trying to see if I'm again missing. But yeah, like a lot of her storylines are just about her music career and her relationships and all that. And it's like, she does have a nice voice, and when she actually writes her own songs, well, I don't know if the actress actually wrote her own songs, but like you get what I mean within universe. They're decent for a TV show, and she's pretty, but overall, like, she's never been my favorite just because, like, I don't know what the writers were trying to do with her as well. So yeah, that's that. Now, I was gonna say I'm already like 45 minutes into this video. As for the guys, I don't really have that much to say about Naveed. I've never had strong feelings about him either. Like, most of the male characters I don't really have strong feelings about. Teddy, like, a lot of his storyline, yeah, it's definitely good, you know, a guy coming out, like, even, like, back then in 2008, it wasn't that common on TV. Definitely less common than it is now, so it was a good storyline, but I never liked his character much, if I'm honest. Ethan, again, he was only in for 1 season. He's one of the characters that got binned after season 1, like I said. Again, he was just more there to cause conflict between Annie and Naomi, and Silver still found time to hook up with him in 1 episode before he left, so it's whatever. Then, like, my favorite male character in the show is Liam, played by, I do know his name, because I think he is cute, and what is his name? Okay, where is it? Matt Lanter, that's the one. So yeah, technically he is only recurring in season 1. He is the one who at first is with Naomi, but he has like this weird dynamic with Annie, and then them two get together, like on or off. Like they become like the main couple of the show, kind of. But yeah, it's the case of he is like really this bad boy who is like, he makes some horrible decisions. Like, he gets seduced by Naomi's sister, but again, it takes 2 to tango. You can't really seduce someone who's not open to being seduced, you know, unless you can mind control them like a Jedi. So, you know, it's that sort of thing where he's definitely not a perfect character, and he spends the majority of season 2, like, that storyline afraid of saying anything to clear things up. And then, like, he does seem to be definitely, like, he's definitely inspired by Dylan McKay in a sense that he seems to have a lot of inner turmoil that he spends a lot of the time on this show trying to solve. And yeah, I do find him endearing. Sometimes he is infuriating, but at the very least, it seemed like the writers wanted to keep writing for him. My main critique for his character is that starting season 4, I think they dumbed him down a fair bit, because he was shown to be like street smart, not necessarily academic, but he was shown to be smart and resourceful and witty. And then like the last season and a half, they just flanderized him a little bit when it comes to that, so I don't really appreciate it. But he was definitely like the most entertaining male character to watch, and not just because the actor is cute, maybe a little bit. So anyway, I think that's most of the main cast, actually, that I had something to say about. I do think that the parents, like Annie and Dixon's parents, they play way less of a role in this show than Jim and Cindy played to Brandon and Brenda in the original one. And the dad gets written off like after season 2, and then the mom gets written off after season 3, which makes sense. Like, it's university, like they don't really need to be there, I guess. So it's definitely like a smaller type of role. Ivy, the main character, she was okay. Like, it was nice to get a female character that was like not in the main scene, but also I think that she was never fully included in the group, which makes it kind of difficult to appreciate. And as far as, before I move on to the relationships, the cameo appearances of the girls from the original Beverly Hills. So obviously Kelly is there for 2 seasons, kind of just looking after Silver and all that, and raising her son. And my easily least favorite thing in the whole show is that they confirmed that her and Dylan are like the canon endgame. And they even had a son together, because Dylan and Kelly are one of my least favorite couples in all of television that I've ever seen. So I was not happy with that. And Brenda appears in season 1. She goes back to like star in this play, and she has scenes with Kelly as well. They seem to sort of have patched things up, and like she makes peace that she didn't end up with Dylan, but she sort of seems a bit like lost. Like, she ends up adopting this baby girl from China, and it was nice to see Shannon Doherty back in her Brenda roots, but I just wish that, I wish that things turned out differently there. And Donna also appears for 1 episode. I'm pretty sure they reveal that she and David got divorced, which is like, why do you have a character come back just to ruin a pairing that they spent 10 years building and ended this series on their wedding episode? It beats me, but you know what? I'm not a TV writer. So, relationships. I have spoken about these already a bit, so I'll try to make it more concise, to at least not talk for 2 hours. This is definitely going to be more than an hour, but anyway. So, relationships. Okay, so I said that I would tell you which main characters haven't hooked up, because the list is way shorter than the other way around, and I'm gonna deliver that promise. Sorry if you can see my hand. I'm just trying to readjust the camera. My phone. Fun times. So anyway, like the characters that have never hooked up, well, Annie and Dixon, they're adoptive siblings. This isn't Game of Thrones, okay? So, obviously, they haven't hooked up together. Annie's never hooked up with Naveed. Or Teddy. Or who else? I think that's like the main cast. So, yeah, she's never hooked up with 3 of them, but one of them is her brother. Then Naomi has never hooked up with Naveed or Teddy or Dixon. If anything, Naomi has hooked up with the least of the main characters, as far as I can remember. Then Adriana hasn't hooked up with Liam, and Teddy. So yeah, that's the one. And Silver hasn't hooked, like I said, she even hooked up with Ethan the 12 seconds that he was on the show. She has literally hooked up with every single male character. And look, girl, you do you, but it's like one of them was a cheating scenario and the other one was like, you basically knew that this guy is your friend's like love of her life and she's still pining for him and you still sleep with him, so it's a bit technically it's not cheating, but I just think that it's still a shitty thing to do as a friend. What else? So yeah, I just went with like the girls because I remember their relationships better, but yeah, pretty much like you get the point. It's very, very mixed in together. And my favorite relationships are, so one of them is Annie and Liam. I thought that, like, you could tell from the beginning that they were going somewhere with them because they had like the sort of antagonistic thing going on when they were like bickering a lot, and that's like 90s staple for we're gonna hook up in the janitor's closet, whatever. So but I was surprised that they took a little while to actually get together because they had like this bickering, but then he got with Naomi and he seemed to genuinely like her, and then the whole like seduced by Naomi's sister thing happened, and they seemed to just put them on the back burner because like think that they would then just get together, but there clearly needed to be more groundwork done because Liam actually spent some time with Naomi then to realize that their relationship wasn't working, and it was only after that they realized that they do like each other for real and want to be together. Thing was kind of an interesting thing because they could have just evolved it into a full-on love triangle, but I think they respected that for Annie and Liam to get a proper chance together, they had to make sure that Naomi and Liam were dead in the water sort of situation. So yeah, I do like that. Technically, Annie did cheat on her boyfriend Charlie, who was also Liam's half-brother. It's a whole thing. And slept with Liam when he was beat up by someone. So that's that. But like, once they get together, it is really sweet and they have nice chemistry and they just seem to like, it's clearly what the writers have been building towards for like nearly 2 seasons. So we're not disappointed, but then I am not huge on their writing past season 3. But again, like, I'm not huge on a lot of the writing choices made past season 3. I already made that clear, since I barely remember those seasons. But it's the case of, like, Liam proposes to Annie because he hasn't solved some of his own issues, and then it's revealed that he had a one-night stand with someone while technically still with her, because he was, like, long distance or whatever, and it's like, he tried to plaster a proposal on top of it, because that's what you do, apparently, and it, she rightfully rejected it, they broke up, and then they did sleep together once, but since they broke up at the beginning of season 4, they actually stayed broken up, and I do agree that that was necessary, because they both needed to sort their own shit out before they could actually be together like a proper couple and have their own chance and everything. But ultimately, I didn't appreciate how Annie realized and got to that point way faster than Liam, and how she spent a lot of season 5 pining over him while he was just going about and fucking everyone inside sort of thing, having this fuckboy phase or whatever. So yeah, I don't really appreciate that, especially considering he slept with Silver as well, so, and acted like they actually had a shot at a proper relationship, which I found icky. So yeah, I definitely didn't really appreciate that, but like, I'm happy they ended up together still. Like I said, I just wish that we got there a bit on a more equal grounds, because it felt like Liam kind of needed to be pushed into realizing he still loves her and to propose to her. Like, they end the series engaged, which is sweet, but at the same time, again, I just wish that it was written better. And my second favorite couple are Naomi and Max, which it's an atrocity that they didn't end up together. the actress even filmed like an alternative ending of her own accord where they reunite, which I thought was hilarious, and it's also canon for me. I don't care. But like, they were perfect together, and they had so many cute moments, and they were so good for each other. And then the writers were just like, nah, like, I don't understand. It's like they struck a gold mine and they decided, you know what, we don't need this. I don't know, maybe the actor couldn't be there, but at the same time, they could have worked around that. I don't know. It's just very... So that's like the relationships I loved. And I think those actually are the only two relationships I loved in this show, because every other one was kind of tainted, especially when you look... So you have Silver and Dixon, they were on and off, and they do end up together, but I do think that once their relationship gets severed after season 1, it's never the same, and it's a bit... I don't know. Like, they were sweet in a way that, like, Dan and Serena were in season 1, and then every attempt to try to get them back together, it just didn't work. And, like, the way they ended up together was sort of just, like, an afterthought, like, oh, we need to pair everyone off, so, like, they just stuck everyone in their original couples. Like, Naveed and Silver, like, they were just, it came out of cheating, and they didn't actually have that much in common. I didn't care for them. Adriana and Naveed, like, they were presented as, like, this, true love, whatever, but again, I don't love either of their characters, and again, he cheated on her, so how much he could have really loved her, but I was lukewarm on them too. And, Adriana and Dixon, again, I didn't dig them as a couple, and she cheated on him as well, so, you know, there's that. Like, see, that's the thing. These characters ditch each other and cheat on each other and get, like, mixed with each other so much that it can get hard after a certain point to take their relationship seriously. Then, what other? Obviously, Silver and Teddy, neither here nor there. He's a gay man. He was, you know, figuring himself out. Nothing really to talk about there. Ivy and Raj's relationship was sweet, but it was tragic, and I never was that attached to Ivy as well, so I was like, okay, this is sad, but, you know, I'm not super affected by it. Who else? What else am I forgetting? I don't know. There's, like, a lot of relationships, but I'm talking just about, like, the main cast, otherwise we'll be here all day, and no one has time for that. So yeah, when it comes to that, I do feel like they went a bit overboard with the mixing and hooking up with everyone. And speaking of friendships as well, just a general note, I do think that these characters ultimately have done way too much shit to each other to still claim that they're genuine friends. I mean, it's the same with Gossip Girl. I get that it's all for entertainment, and it's in the sense like, oh, it's family, we can be horrible to each other and still, you know, make sense, whatever, together. But at the same time, I'm just like, sometimes it gets to the point where it's a bit much, but, you know, it's one of the TV things. However, honestly, I can't really think of a friendship in this show that wasn't ruined at some point majorly. And that itself tells me that. You have Annie and Naomi, you have Naomi and Silver, you have Silver and Adriana, and Liam and Naveed and all that. Like, that's the point. They make up, they, you know, make amends and all that, but things that happen between them, sometimes they're so severe that it really makes you question, like, how can you be friends at all if that's what you're willing to do to each other? And frankly, they go farther than characters like Gossip Girl, for example, because, like, mixing someone's medication or, you know, leaking someone's nudes to a whole school, like, that sort of thing. Like, it's very, like, they're messed up things, and technically they're crimes as well. So, yeah, I don't know, like, it's entertaining, but I also don't really buy the longevity of any of the friendships of the show, if that makes sense. So that is that. On that. And any takes that I have that I haven't already said or need summarizing, well, I guess maybe me having Annie as one of my favorite characters is an unpopular opinion in itself, I guess. I know a lot of people love Adriana, so I guess me maybe not loving her character. I don't hate her, but I don't love her either. It's maybe an unpopular opinion. I love Liam's character, but I don't enjoy his writing in the later seasons, like how they focus on his dim-wittedness. Like, I don't care for Dixon or Naveed that much. I don't know how popular that is. I don't think anyone on this show are that good of friends to each other. Though, again, like, I'm just spitting out my, like, takes. Whether they're hot or cold, I don't know. But, yeah, it's very, you know, it's still a very entertaining show. But I do think it actually helped me, talking about it, to realize why I haven't rewatched it. Because I do have shows where I don't watch the last season or two of them, because I just don't like how it was written. But with this show, it has 5 seasons, and we actually start going downhill pretty steadily just after the halfway point. And I remember the last 2 seasons being, like, very downgraded in entertainment value. So it's like, I feel like if I were to rewatch it in full, I would struggle to get through it. So it's just me rewatching, like, the first 2-3 seasons, which I do remember fairly well. But then again, it's kind of difficult to see where some of the characters ended up. And like I said, I found the fact that all of the couples from the first season were paired back together a bit cheap and a bit like, hey, look, we messed about with everyone, but look, we're back to each other. I don't know if I dig that. So yeah, I do think that is one of the a mix of reasons why I've not rewatched the show in full. But again, that might change in the future. I don't know. I might be intrigued. I might be convinced by myself to do it. So yeah, please do share your opinions if you've watched this show. What characters, couples are your favorites? Do you think any of these characters had genuine friendships with each other that could withstand long last, like, for decades? How do you, if you've seen the original, how do you like the endings they gave some of the characters from the OG one? Anything that was worth discussing that I might have missed out on, because I still tried to keep the video, like, I think like an hour or something is reasonable. Anything above that, unless I'm doing some kind of like an analysis recap essay, would be a bit much. So yeah, if I missed anything, do share, and I hope to see you next time.